That is granted. Mr. Royce, you're recognized, sir, for 5 minutes.
Well, I appreciate it, Mr. Chairman. I had a question for Mr. Honig. In a recent book co-authored by two economists, Rogoff and Reinhardt, they note the painful consequences of the rising government debt load that often follows, financial implosion or a financial crisis. And despite vocal warnings from economists, the United States is following the pattern that they set out rather blindly. We were over-leveraged prior to the financial crisis, but the Federal Reserve and the U.S. government have lent or spent or guaranteed about $8.2 trillion to prop up the economy in the last 2 years. And you also throw into the mix here that Chairman Bernanke has said our budget deficits and the budget proposal put forward by the administration going forward is unsustainable. So we don't see things getting better with these trillion-dollar deficits that we are budgeting for now. The IMF and the OECD are projecting that the stock of public debt in advanced economies is going to double and reach an average level of 100% of GDP in the coming years. So I would ask you, we've been through a financial crisis where much of the private sector debt was simply transferred to the federal government. In essence, that's the bottom line. And that's contributed then to these unsustainable federal deficits. So where does this road lead, and do you foresee a financial crisis that now morphs instead into a sovereign debt crisis here in the United States?
I think that the steps that were taken in the crisis to staunch it, to end it, were taken aggressively. I think now we have to be prepared to reverse that. And we need to do it carefully and systematically, but we need to reverse it. These debt levels that we've been talking about here this morning, whether it's the financial institutions, the federal government, and even the Federal Reserve's balance sheet needs to be addressed and reduced. And I think that's paramount importance, or as Rogoff and Reinhardt have shown, we will compromise our future, and as we've been talking here this morning, it will as well. And I think, as I said earlier, there will be increasing pressure. If this isn't addressed sooner and systematically, and people don't have confidence that we're going to address it, then we will see pressure for the Federal Reserve to monetize more of this debt. The inflationary pressures will rise, and there will be a strong impact on the dollar long term and on our nation's wealth. So it's
well, that is the concern of a number of economists, that the path of least resistance here might be runaway fiscal deficits, which will then be monetized by the Federal Reserve. Right. And I think you recently gave a speech highlighting the possibility that Congress could soon be knocking on the Fed's door to monetize the debt. Right. Are you concerned with the precedent that's been set by the Fed in this regard? Because last year the Fed has bought $1.8 trillion of Treasury securities and agency debt. And the other issue that I just asked about, which comes out of that same book by Rogoff and Reinhardt, is that the buildup of excessive debt, they say, inevitably leads to stagnant economic growth going forward, which you alluded to. Clearly, there is the need for deleveraging that lies ahead for our economy, both in government and privately held debt. And instead, we seem to be piling on, especially if you look at the increases in all of the agency spending, the appropriations, the separate appropriations bills, which go up by double digits. Do you foresee a stagnant economy as long as this level of debt remains? Well, what's your forecast here?
Well, First of all, yes, I am concerned by the precedent set, and I think we need to, that's why I say we need to reverse that quickly to bring our balance sheet back down. Now, we need to do it systematically and carefully, but we need to do it. If we don't, and we get ourselves into an environment of growing debt, unsustainable, as Mr. Walker had pointed out, and we then put pressure to monetize it, which would cause us to have inflation, we will endanger our economy, and stagnation is a possibility. It's unavoidable if we don't take action now.
Thank you, Mr. Hung.
Congressman,
Yes,
if I can respond
absolutely.
quickly. First, in my testimony, I talked about the 4 parallels between the factors that caused the mortgage-related subprime crisis and the federal government's own finances. We need to learn lessons from that. Secondly, with regard to the book you're referring to, I think it refers to the fact that once you reach debt equal to about 90% of the economy, then it has an adverse effect on economic growth, and once you get to 100, it's a real troubling. Well, if you count the Social Security and Medicare debt, we're at 89%. And growing rapidly. That doesn't count the GSEs and things of that nature. And then lastly, you can't monetize your way out of this problem. And let me tell you why. Because while monetizing your way out, which creates an inflation risk, might help deal with the current debt and lessen the burden of the current debt, the real threat to the future of this country is the $45 trillion in off-balance sheet obligations, $38 trillion for Medicare alone, that grows faster than inflation and faster than the economy. You have to make tough choices. You need to do it within 2 years at least to start, or else we could be facing something that we don't want to see in this country.
Thank you.
Thank the gentleman. And